Tuesday. Last night when we got home, Mom said she was mad at me. She was disappointed, and when it comes to Mom, that's even worse. She said she's disturbed by my pattern of description, and that between the incident at Maddox's house and what happened with the pig, she didn't feel like I could be trusted. I explained for the millionth time that the Lego thing was just a misunderstanding. But she had obviously already made up her mind about that one. The last time we had a conversation like this was when I was in 4th grade. And I will admit, I totally deserved the punishment that time around. It actually started with something kind of small. Mom used to pack my lunch every morning, and I would always eat my sandwiches and snack, but toss whatever fruit she had put in there. Toss. Mom figured out I wouldn't eat my fruit, so one day she put an apple in my lunch and made me promise to bring the core back home to prove I've eaten it, she said. If I didn't, she wouldn't pack a snack for me anymore. At lunch, I forgot all about my promise, and I threw my fruit away like usual. And when I got home, Mom asked me where my apple core was. I probably should have just come clean, but for some reason, I made up a lie. I told her that on the way to school that morning, a bully grabbed me and stole my apple. It was a pretty desperate move on my part, but I was worried Mom wasn't going to give me a snack the next day if I told her the truth. I thought about my story was so lame that Mom would see right through it, but she wanted to know more about this bully, so I really let it rip. I told her the kid's name was Curtis Litz, and that he was a foot taller than me, with an unibrow and a mole on his chin. I figured if Mom was looking for details, I wasn't going to disappoint her. Mom said she could step in, but this was a good opportunity for me to learn how to settle a conflict on my own. So that night she brought me a pen and paper and had me write Cutus a letter, which I did. Dear Cutus, please don't take my apple again. My mom said I need it for my nutrition. Sincerely, Greg Heffley. I probably should have ended it right then. But I wrote a fake letter to myself from Cutus instead, to make sure Mom could see how bad this kid was. I added a rude drawing at the end. Dear Georgie, your apple was delicious. Tell your mommy to send me another one tomorrow from Cutus, a butt. Well, I guess I took it too far, because the next day Mom came to school with that letter determined to speak to Cutus Litz. The security told Mom there's no student named Cutus Litz at the school, and when Mom asked me about him, I said he must be homeschooled. After that, I got kind of nervous, and for the next 2 weeks, I had Raleigh eat my apple at lunch and give me the core. Chomp. Mom seemed to forget all about it until we sat a row behind the Burmans. a torch one week. And the 5th grade son, Tevin, looked just like my description of cutest lids, and he caught Mom's eye. Mom told Tevin's parents they're raising a rotten kid, and that they owed her some apples. I felt pretty bad because Tevin Burlington is a nice kid, and his family volunteers at the soup kitchen downtown every Saturday morning. Later on in the year, Mom joined the fundraising committee, which was headed up by Mrs. Berman. It didn't take long for Mom to figure things out from there, and I lost TV privileges for a whole month as a punishment. But I actually ended up getting a double punishment because for the rest of that year, every time Tevin saw me in the hallway, he really let me have it. Jerk, punch. Last night, Mom decided that my punishment for lying was for me to take 3 chores out of the grab bag every day this week. Unfortunately, she always cleared out all of Roger's slips of paper, which means there's no chance I'll get an easy one. Eat some ice cream. When we wrapped up our conversation last night, Mom said I'm a smart kid with a good imagination, but I just need to do something with it. Listen, I'm not proud of myself for lying, but trust me, I'm not the only one in this family who bends the truth. I've heard grown-ups lie 10 times a week, but if you ask me, I bet it's even more than that. The first time I remember Mom telling me a lie was when I was about 3 years old, and she had me try broccoli. It tastes like candy, and Mom didn't seem to have any problem lying to Manny either. Last December, when Mom put the gingerbread house out on a kitchen table, she told Manny not to touch it until Christmas, or it would turn into a million spiders, which is kind of crazy thing to tell a little kid. But it backfired when Manny forgot the gingerbread house with a can of bug spray. Whoosh! Dad's a pretty honest guy in general, but even he fibs when it's come up for him. Dad used to hate it when the ice cream truck came to our neighborhood because me and Roger would always start begging him for money as soon as we heard the music. So Dad told us the ice cream truck only plays music when they're out of ice cream. I actually think he's lying. Might be inherited because Grandpa does it too. But he should have gotten his story straight with Dad, because Grandpa used to say the ice cream truck driver was a clown who spanked children he caught roaming around outside. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that when Grandpa first told me that, I actually kind of believed him. So I felt like it was my responsibility to get the word out to the other kids in the neighborhood. 1. I've learned not to trust the grown-ups in our family, but nobody's done more to mess with my head than Roderick. The first lie I can remember him telling me was that if your belly button got untied, your butt would fall off. I made sure my preschool classmates knew about that, which caused a big stir at school. Right around the same time, Roger told me that the outer ring of the toilet seat was only used by girls, and that guys were supposed to lift the seat no matter what. I believed him, and if he I accidentally left the door unlocked one night, I by and using the toilet the wrong way for the rest of my life. Sometimes Roderick told me things that got me in big trouble when I was in second grade. He said that if a person wears camouflage, they're actually invisible to everyone else. That one got me banned from the town pool for the rest of the summer. Hey! A lot of Roderick's lies ended up costing me money too. One year, Roderick told me that if I dug a hole and put all my birthday money in it, a tree would grow and I could get cash from it whenever I wanted. That seemed like a pretty sweet deal to me. So I did what he said. And I even watered it twice a day. But when I told Mom my money tree wasn't growing, she got a shovel and dug up the hole, which was empty. I'm glad Mom stepped in when she did, because in another day or two, all of my birthday money would have been spent on bubblegum and comic books. Sometimes Roderick just took my money outright. Once when I lost one of my baby teeth, I put it under my pillow for the tooth fairy. But when I went to see if she left me 50 cents, I found a note, and I'm pretty sure Roderick wrote himself. Sorry, I'm light on cash tonight. I will hook you up next time. TF. Roderick told me the tooth fairy was only one of the fairies that comes in the middle of the night and gives money. He said there was an army fairy, a leg fairy, and a bunch of other ones too. Roderick said that when you get older, your child's arms and legs will fall off. And when they do, you put them under your pillow and get money. He said after that, your adult limbs start growing. But sometimes a kid's arms or legs get loose, and the adult ones come in early. I was terrified that was going to happen to me, so I checked every night to make sure my arms and legs were on tight. Roderick was always coming up with ways to scare me. Back when our basement wasn't finished, there were open gaps under the stair treads. Roderick said if I went up the stairs too slow, a monster would grab my ankle. From then on, I started taking the stairs 2 at a time. So, after I got good at that, I tried taking 3 stairs at a time, but I guess that was a little too obvious trip. Eventually, we finished the basement, and the gaps were covered with good wood. But Grandma's basement is still unfinished. And before I go down there, I usually make sure everything's all clear first. Another thing Roderick said to scare me was that if I burped indoors, the ghost of George Washington would haunt me. I have no idea how he came up with that one, but it still makes me think twice before opening a can of soda. Wow. Sometimes Roderick would tell me something that actually could be true, and that's when things got confusing. He told me once that if a person sleeps with their mouth open, they'll eat an average of 5 spiders a night, which is kind of believable if you think about it. Another time, Roderick told me that it's dangerous to wake someone up when they're sleepwalking. I thought there could be a chance he was actually telling the truth, because I'm pretty sure I heard that one somewhere else. But then a few nights later, I caught Roger eating the ice beam sandwich that was supposed to be mine. And I realized that it was just another one of his dirty tricks. Chew, chew. I'd been lied so much over the years. It could take me the rest of my life to figure out what's true and what's not. In the meantime, I'm not taking any chances, but Thursday. Mom's only been going to school for a few days now, but she's acting like a completely different person. When she gets home at night, she's always in a good mood. She doesn't even get mad if I haven't finished my chores. Mom says she's happy because she's being challenged at school, and the rest of us should try learning new things too. But I have it too scary when it comes to this sort of thing. I figure your brain only has so much space in it, and by the time you're 8 or 9 years old, it's all filled up. So, if you want to learn something new, after that, you have to make room by getting rid of something old. I figure that's why school gets harder the further you go. Every time new information comes in your brain, automatically clears out something else to make space. To prove my point, ever since I learned about photosynthesis in science, I haven't been able to remember how to do long division. Question 1. What is 367 divided by 12? Remember to show your work? No clue. I just wish you could choose what your brain gets rid of. I've completely forgotten the cheat code for Twisted Wizard, but I still have a really clear memory of the time I scared Dad when he came out of the shower. And believe me, I'd pay good money to wipe that image from my memory blank. Rah! Scream! Mom says me and Roger need to start thinking about what we want to do when we grow up and start planning for the future now. She says when you're a kid, you should do as many things as you can do to find out what you like so that later you'll know what to focus on. I already know what I want to do for my career. I'm planning on being a video game tester when I grow up. The way I see it, I've been training for that job ever since I was old enough to hold a controller in my hand. But whenever I tell Mom my plan, she doesn't seem excited about it. Blam, pow, pow. Mom says I should set my sights higher and become an engineer or a doctor or something like that. She said if I just play video games all day and don't take school seriously, I'm going to end up being a garbage collector. First of all, the only doctor I know is our pediatrician, Dr. Higgins, and I can't see myself spending the rest of my life suctioning mucus out of little kids' noses. And second, being a garbage collector seems like a pretty sweet deal to me. The guys who collect our trash get to be outside every day and crank their music up really loud. So if the video game tester thing doesn't work out for me, garbage collector seems like a good fallback plan. Crunch, toss, When I was little, Mom told me I could be anything I wanted when I grew up. I didn't find out until later on, and that she was just talking about jobs. I thought I could literally be anything. Mom says, always saying, we have a lot of brains in our family, and that one of my great aunts helped invent a cure for a disease way back then. But trust me, we've got a lot of real dummies in our family too. Last week, my Uncle Gary cut down a big branch that was overhanging his driveway, and he ended up breaking his collarbone. With people like Uncle Gary in my gen pool, it's a miracle. I can't even tie on my own shoes, but Mom's always saying I can do great things if I put my mind to it. Albert Sandy says human beings only use 80% of our brains, and if we can tap into the other 20 things, we can do amazing things. If I'm the one who figures out how to tap into the extra 20%, though, I am keeping that knowledge to myself. Because if you have all these people going around using their brains at full sympathy, it's going to be totally bananas. Wednesday, Mom spent time to get Roderick excited about college and said it's time for him to get serious about looking into schools. But Roderick still convinced his band is gonna make it big, and that college is just a waste of time for a guy like him. I think Mom's starting to get a little worried because now she's making Roderick research colleges for a half an hour a day instead of doing chores. Roderick wrote to a handful of schools to ask for the vouchers, and Mom got all excited when they came in the mail. But most of the colleges were for dogs, which either Roderick didn't notice, or he thinks those might be the only schools he has a chance of getting into. Woof Woof College, Fetch University, K-9 Academy. Since Mom can't get Roderick interested in college, she turned her attention to me. On Monday, Mom took me to a school so I could see what the campus was like. And I have to admit, it was actually kind of cool. Mom said that in college you can study anything you want. And all you need to succeed is a curious mind. She told me that while she went to a class, I should explore the campus so I could get a sense of what it's like for students. I walked around for a while, but I felt like I didn't belong here. Eventually, I went to the library and just waited for Mom to be finished with her class. I started doing my homework, but I could tell that all the college kids were wondering that what some middle schooler was doing in their library. That's when I remembered hearing about a girl my age who's so smart she's already in medical school trying to be a doctor. I figured if I made myself look really smart, I looked like I belonged there. So I got a stack of thick books about physiology off to a nearest shelf and pretended I was really into them. A few minutes later, a girl pulled up a chair and started talking to me. The girl said I looked smart and she wanted to know if I'd be willing to tutor her for her psychology test. She said she had later in the week. Now, I didn't know the first thing about psychology, But I realized an opportunity like this only comes up once in a lifetime. I told her I was kind of busy at the moment, but I'd be willing to tutor her the next day. When Mom came back from class, I used her library card to check out every book on psychology I could find. And that night I studied like I've never studied before. When the next day rolled around, I was ready. I asked Mom if she'd take me back to her college, and she seemed thrilled. I spent 2 hours helping that girl prepare for her test, and by the time we were done, I knew she would get a good grade. But then this big guy came by who was apparently her boyfriend. And believe me, if I had known there was a boyfriend involved, I would have killed myself, learning a bunch of useless information. Slick. And this is the kind of thing I can expect in college. I'm gonna have to pass. And by the way, I was right about what happens when you learn new stuff. I had a test on the word capitals today, and I couldn't remember a single one. Zzz. Halloween. It took a long time to get to Marina's house tonight because the street was full of little kids trick-or-treating. I was kind of glad we were a little late because if we showed up right on time, we looked like we were too eager. When we finally got to Marina's, I told Mom thanks for the ride and not to come back for us until the party ended at 11. But Mom turned off the engagement, got out of the minivan, pulled some bags from the back. When I asked her what she was doing, she said she was coming in to introduce herself to Mr. and Mrs. Mendoza. I begged Mom not to, but when she decides to do something, there's really no stopping her. She rang the doorbell, but nobody answered. We could hear loud music coming from the basement. So Mom opened the door, and we all stepped inside. Mr. and Mrs. Mendoza were on the couch watching a horror movie, and they didn't seem too interested in getting up and chatting with Mom. Mom asked if she could go downstairs and check out the party, and they seemed totally fine with it. Now I was really nervous. Mom opened the door to the basement, headed on down, and all me and Wally could really do was follow. There were a lot of kids there already, and they looked like they were having a blast. But when I saw Mom, they stopped what they were doing. Mom pulled a bunch of homemade Halloween games out of her bag, and I got a sick feeling. In my stomach, I should have known what Mom was up to. I saw her reading the October edition Family Frog magazine last night. Family Frogs, spooky-tastic fun. Haunted homemade party games. When Mom pulled out party games, I figured everyone would just ignore her and go back to having fun. But then something crazy happened. A bunch of girls there helping Mom set up her stuff. From that point on, Mom was running the show. She invited everyone at the party to play these corny Halloween games. I thought I might actually die of embarrassment, but everyone got into it and seemed to be having a great time. I think the person who was having the most fun was Valley. His favorite game was the one where you can eat a donut on a string, and he set the record with 5 in 30 seconds. Once I realized everyone having a good time, I relaxed a little. I even played a few games myself. Me and Valley took first prize in Pin and Boo on the girls, and I gotta admit, we made a pretty good team. A little to the left. In fact, we won a lot of Mom's games. The only one we stunk at was a mini pumpkin toss, but I guess you can't be good at everything. Toss. After the games were over, somebody turned the music louder and the party cranked up a notch. I was a little hard to pull out my best moves while I was attached to Rowley, but I still had some pretty good stuff. I gotta say, it was awesome. The only kids who weren't having fun were the handful of guys who were there. But I wasn't gonna let a few sour grapes from my good time. Right when the party was about to hit the next line, Rowley told me he needed to use the bathroom. But when we made the costume, we didn't plan for that sort of thing. There was a zipper or anything like that. So the only way to get out of the costume was to cut it off. Neither of us were wearing pants underneath, so that wasn't happening. I was pretty annoyed because earlier in the evening I told Wally to slow down on the fruit punch, and of course he hadn't listened. I decided he was just going to have to wait until we got home to deal with it. So I tried to go back to having fun. But Rowley made it kind of impossible for me to enjoy myself. Whimper. I think Mom figured out what was going on from the look on Rowley's face. And she said it was time for us to wrap things up and head home. Now I was really mad. The party was in full swing and we had to leave because Rowley needed a party break. But Mom said it's better to leave a party when it's going strong than when it's fizzling out, she said. It makes you look cool because everyone will think you have bad things to do. I don't know what's better than hanging out in Marina Mendoza, but Mom was practically pushing me up the stairs. When we drove away, I was pretty miserable, but Mom was happy as I've ever seen her. Bye, Miss Heffley, Hong Kong. Tuesday. When I was picking an instrument, I should have put it more thought into it. I was mostly thinking about image, but there are other considerations too. It was a pain in the neck bringing my French horn to school today. Because the case weighs almost as much as the instrument. But when I saw what Graydon Bundy had to deal with, I felt okay about my choice. The drag. Everyone says Annabelle Greer is one of the smartest girls in our grade. And it's easy to see why she placed her Piccolo. So she's not wasting any energy lugging a heavy instrument around. But George Denny might be even smarter than her. He plays the kettle drums, and those are too big to take home every night. So they stay in the band room full time. Boom, ba-doom, boom, boom. Something I've never really noticed before is that most of the kids in the band actually kind of look like the instruments. I don't know if people do that on purpose or if it's just a coincidence. Toot toot, squeak squeak, tweet tweet. The great thing about the band is that there are no tryouts or anything. Basically, if you buy an instrument and show up, you are in. But I wasn't thinking it all the way through when I picked my instrument. The French horn is in the brass section, and almost everyone in the brass section is a guy. The woodwind section is a complete opposite. It's all gold, except for a handful of guys, including Rowley. I really wish she had given me a heads up about it, because the information would have been nice to know. Maybe Rowley didn't tell me on purpose, so I wouldn't give him any competition. I noticed he sits right next to Marina Mendoza, and believe me, that's no accident. Tweet, toot, tweet, toot, tweet, tweet, tweet. When the class started, Mrs. Ganola told us to start warming up. That's when I remembered that my least favorite sound is in the world. In the world is kids practicing their instruments. But Miss Ganola didn't seem to mind. She's retiring this year, so I think she's already checked out. Smash, bow, da, bump, shika, shika, squeeze, squitch, pluck, pluck. I sat next to the other kid who plays the French horn, Pitman. He looked like he knew what he was doing. With the way he moved his fingers around, it seemed a lot more complicated than I was expecting, but I figured I might as well give it a shot. I filled my cheeks with air, just as Even did, and I blew into the mouthpiece as hard as I could, but the air didn't come out where I expected. Blop! As soon as it happened, everyone in the band just froze. Jake McGraw started trying to sniff out who did it, because he's got real talent of that sort of thing. Sniff, sniff. But if there's one thing you should know about me, is that I never take blame for a fight. I'll even throw my own mother under the bus, and trust me, I have. Who cut the cheese in here? Not me, fam. The kids in the band were starting to look my way. I was really sweating it, because if I was going to get invited to Marina Mendoza's Halloween party, my reputation couldn't take a hit like this. Jake McGuff was getting closer and closer. I knew I was only seconds away from getting identified. So I did what I had to and pinned it on Graydon Bundy. I didn't feel too bad, because Graydon has a reputation for letting it rip in class. So the way I see it, this was punishment for all the times he got away with one. Thursday. I wish I could go back in time and pick a new instrument, because French horn is no joke. The guy at the music store now mentioned that it's a left-handed instrument, and I'm a righty. I thought it'd be easy with the whole 3-button thing. But my left hand isn't strong enough to work it. Plus, the mouthpiece is tiny, and I can't get any air through it. So far, I haven't been able to squeeze out anything that sounds like a musical note. Sweep. Unfortunately, that doesn't help me with Dad. He wants to hear me practicing each night, like I promised him. Luckily, I found some video clips of high school girls practicing her French horn. So those videos are doing the trick. At least for now. Tweet, toot, tweet. This whole musical instrument thing might be a big waste of time anyway. Marina didn't invite the entire band to her party tomorrow night. Just the woodwind section. That means if you play a brass instrument like me, you're out of luck. But then I realized I've got an in. Riley's part of Woodward section. And if he's going there, I can just tag along. And I can't just show up with him, though, or I could get turned away at the door. So I figured out a way to make sure that doesn't happen. I realized that if I make myself part of Riley's costume, then wherever he goes, I go too. And that's how I came up with the idea of the rest of us going at a two-headed monster. On the walk home from school, I told Riley all about my plan. But Riley said he wanted to go to a party as a nice witch, and his mom was always working on his costume. See, this is exactly where Riley needs me to go with him. I told Riley if he went to a party like this, dressed up as a witch, he would never live it down at school. I think that made him kind of nervous. So he said he changed his mind and wanted to do the two-headed monster thing I had come up with. So tonight we got to work making the costumes out of some sheets I found in the linen closet. When Mom got home from school, I realized I should have asked permission before cutting them up. But she was really happy me and Riley were making something instead of playing video games like we usually do. I told her we were making a two-headed monster costume, and she thought that was a great idea for trick-or-treating. I told Mom about the costume was actually for Marina Mandela's Halloween party. And as soon as I said it, I wished I could take it back. Like I said, before last year's party was a total blowout and everyone in the town heard about it. But Mom was actually pretty good with the idea. She said a party was a chance for us to go to branch out and grow our friend circle. She said she'd even be happy to give us a ride. I'm just relieved she didn't suggest adding another head to the costume. Because believe me, that's exactly the kind of thing she would think of. Shudder. Last year's party got totally out of control. It started off in the basement, but so many people showed up that it spilled out into the yard. And the cops came to shut it down. And that's a pretty big deal for a middle school party. This year, Marina's parents said she has to keep it small, so she's only inviting people who are in the school band with her. That's a bad news for kids like me who are hoping to get invited this time around. Riley's gonna get invited though, because he's in the band. And believe me, if he goes to a party like that, he's gonna be in over his head. I was thinking about this at school today when I had a genius idea. If I join the band, I can get invited to Marina's party. Tonight, when I told Mom and Dad I wanted to join the band, Mom was all for it. She was really excited. I wanted to challenge myself and try something new. But Dad wasn't crazy about that idea. Dad said instruments are expensive and he doesn't think I'll stick with it. But Mom says Roderick stuck with drums, which I don't think really helped my case. Crash, smash. That's when Dad brought up the piano. 2 years ago, Mom saw me fooling around with one of those little electronic keyboards at the mall the week before Christmas. I liked it because it had all these buttons that made different sound effects. Quack, quack, quack. I think Mom got a little overly excited that I was showing interest in a musical instrument because on Christmas Eve, a truck rolled up to deliver a full-sized piano. Juggling by Dad's reaction, I don't think Mom checked with him before buying it. At first, I was excited about the piano, but when I realized it didn't make laser sounds and stuff like that, I lost interest real quick. Tink. But Mom wasn't going to let me give up so fast. She hired a lady named Mrs. Finch to come to the house and give me private lessons twice a week. Mrs. Finch knew her stuff when it came to the piano, but I was a terrible student. The first problem was Mrs. Finch's teaching style. She'd sit right behind me on the bench and put her fingers on top of my fingers. That approach might work for some of Mrs. Finch's students, but it definitely didn't work for me. Middle C. Then there was the music itself. If I was gonna play the piano, I wanted to learn cool songs like the ones you hear on the radio. But Mrs. Finch said I had to start with the basics. And she gave me a beginner's songbook that looked like it was older than Mrs. Finch. All the songs that in that thing would get really corny. And it was hard for me to get into them. C, D, E with B. C, D, E. Sing with me, sing with B. Sing with glee. I felt pretty bad because Mrs. Finch gave her homework every time she visited. But I never practiced in between lessons. So every time she came, we'd have to start over with the C, D, E song, which must have driven her nuts. Eventually, Miss Finch gave up trying to teach me anything, and she would just read gossip magazines while I did my own thing. It went on like that for a month or two, but eventually Mom discovered what was happening, and that was the end of my private lessons. Bleep, bop, bleep. Now, the piano is just a giant piece of furniture taking up space into a living room. I think Mom and Dad are still paying that thing off, so I can kind of understand why Dad is not eager for me to try a new instrument. Luckily, Mom had my back. She said maybe the piano wasn't the right fit for me, and that sometimes the instrument needs to find the person. She finally convinced him when she had said that kids who play musical instruments do better at math and go on to get better jobs. A half an hour later, we were at the music store downtown picking out an instrument. Number one requirement for an instrument is that makes me look cool. I saw a guy at Mom's college strumming a guitar outside the library, and he definitely had the right idea. Now, fortunately, the guitar isn't one of the instruments in a middle school band, so I had to pick something else. I had my eye on the saxophone at first, because with that one, it's not hard to look cool. I learned that from the acclaimed Ron, who practices his during recess. But there are way too many buttons on that thing, and I knew I'd never get the hang of it. Mom suggested I take a look at the French horn, which she used to play as a kid. The French horn looked cool enough, though, and only had 3 buttons, so I figured I could probably handle it. The shopkeeper pulled the French horn down off the hook and handed it to me. But when Dad saw the price tag, he put the brakes on the whole thing. Dad said we should rent instead of buy because that would be a whole lot cheaper. But all the rental instruments were used. A kid who plays French horn in the school band last year was Joshua Berlin, and there was a chance the rental belonged to him. Mom and Dad got into an argument in front of everyone. It was kind of embarrassing. Dad said we were spending too much money on something I'd quit in 2 weeks. And Mom said he needed to show more faith in me. Eventually, Dad caved in. But before he swiped his credit card, he made me promise I'll practice every night. This thing better be easy as it looks because it feels like a whole lot of trouble to go through just to get invited to a Halloween party. Tuesday. Monday. All anyone at school can talk about these days is Mariana Mendoza's Halloween party, which is this coming Friday. But it's a little annoying for me because I won't be getting an invitation. Irina's parties are kind of legendary because her parents don't care what goes on as long as it stays in the basement. November, Thursday. All this week, Mariana and her friends have been saying how great the party was and how much fun my mom was. I don't know how to feel about that exactly, but I guess I'll take it as a compliment. I have kind of lost interest in being in the band though. And it's not just because the party's in the rear view mirror. Once we got back to school on Monday, the guys on the woodwind section started giving me a hard time. Mama's boy, shove. And it's not just the big guys either. Even Jake McGull's gotten in on the act. Tweet! When I told Mom and Dad I was thinking of quitting the band, Dad said that wasn't an option. He said my instrument cost a lot of money and that I had to honor my commitment. He said I can't just quit something because it's hard. And if there's anything he's gonna teach me, it's perseverance. I could tell Dad wasn't gonna let it go, so I promised him I'd keep trying. He seemed pretty happy with that, and I thought I was off the hook. Then he told me he's gonna come to the fall concert to cheer me on. I told Dad the concert is during the school day, so he won't be able to come. But Dad said it's important to him, so he's got to take off work. Now the persuasive really on. Now pressure's really on. I've been trying to learn to play this thing ever since, but trust me, it's not easy. I asked Riley to come over and help me tonight because I figured he's been in the band for a while and knows a thing or two about instruments. But every time the two of us are in a room together, we end up getting distracted. Whap! That was pretty mad because he said all me and Riley to do when we are together is screw around. So he sent Riley back home and told me to get back to work. But even that girl in the videos gave up. I'm trying to learn the French horn, so I guess I'm really on my own. Wednesday. Today was the day of the big fall concert. I never technically learned how to play my instrument, but I did figure out how to get by. I sit right next to Evan Pittman in the band practice, and he can play his bench on just fine. I realized if I just piggybacked on him and pretended I was playing, so he could do the work for both of us. So that's what I've been doing for the past 2 weeks. And if Miss Griona didn't notice from 10 feet away, I knew my dad wouldn't notice from across the room. Tweet, toot, wiggle, wiggle. But 10 minutes before showtime, Even was nowhere to be found. I asked his best friend Marcus Pease where Even was, and Marcus said Even was getting his braces off today and he was going to miss the concert. I couldn't believe Even would hang me out to dry like that. I thought the vast selection is supposed to have each other's backs. When it came time for the band to do some warm-ups, I started to sweat. I was praying Dad forgot all about the fall concert, but then there he was at the stage door. Rap, rap. After the audience took their seats, it was time to go on the stage. Mrs. Granosa led us out in single file, with the brass selection going next to last. But the Woodwinds were right behind us, and that idiot Jake McGurv stepped on the back of my shoe and gave me a flat tire. Step. I had to put my horn down to fix my shoe, and when I did, the last kid in the Woodwind section went to the stage door and let it shut behind him. Click. I tried to open the door, but it was locked, so I pounded on the window. But everyone was tuning their music and couldn't hear me. Pound, pound. The concert was about to start, and all I could think about was Dad looking at my empty chair. So I knocked harder. Luckily, Lowry saw me at the window, got up from his chair and opened the door. But then he stepped inside the room and let the door shut behind him. Click. Now we both were stuck. I knocked on the window again, but right at that moment, Mr. Gurozo struck up the band, and everyone started playing. Now it was hopeless because there was no way anyone was going to hear me, with George Devaney pounding away on his kettle drums. When the clarinet section piped in, Rowley went into panic. He started playing along with the rest of his band, which is definitely not helping mass. Toot, tweet, toot. I was pretty clear it was going to be up to me to get us out of there. I tried to pry on the door opening by putting my foot on the wall and pulling on the handle with all my strength, but I guess my pants couldn't take the stress. Tweet, toot, to whip. I looked in the mirror of the back wall to check the damage, and there was a 5-inch tear down the middle of my pants. That was really bad news because you could see your underwear. Tweet, toot, toot. I realized that even if we managed to get the door back open, I couldn't go out there with this giant hole in my pants. So I looked around the room to see if there's anything I could use to cover up. I found a black blinder on Mr. Gunosa's desk, and I slipped it down the back of my pants. Tweet, toot, tweet. The blinder covered the hole pretty well, and from distance no one would be able to notice, but it's so stiff I couldn't actually sit down. So I had to take it out and come up with a different idea. Then I thought of a solution. I grabbed the black marker off of Mrs. Gurosa's desk and told Lowry to color in the part of my underwear that was showing. That way no one would even notice my pants were wet. Unfortunately, that's right when Dad came to the door. I don't know what it looked like to him, but I have a feeling it didn't look good. 3, 2, 3. Scribble, scribble. Thursday. No matter how many times I explained to Dad what had happened at the fall concert, he didn't want to hear it. He said me and Ryan were goofing off when we should have been performing with the band, and that's all he needed to know. My punishment is 2 weeks with no television or video games, and I'm not allowed to have friends over at school or after school. The only thing I can do is practice my French horn, which I guess is the point. But practicing that thing stresses me out, and stress makes me hungry. I usually have a whole pillowcase of full candy at this time of year, but since I skipped trick-or-treating to go to that party, I missed out on the best part of Halloween. I knew there had to be leftover candy somewhere in the house, because on Halloween night, Dad told Mom the geese chased all the trick-or-treaters away. Honk. So after school today, I looked in all the places. I thought Mom might have stashed the candy, but I came up empty. Now, I was really craving something sweet, but the only thing in the pantry was a bag of chocolate chips. Mom told us we were off limits. Chocolate chips. I think she's planning on baking chocolate chip cookies for the church bake fair, but I figured she had never noticed if just one chip went missing. So I got some scissors and cut a tiny chocolate chip-sized hole in the bottom of the bag. Well, one chocolate chip turned into 2, and 2 turned into 4. Then I kind of lost my mind. Poor. But now it's done, I must have eaten at least a quarter of the bag. I thought there's still a chance Mom would notice, but the hole in the bag had got a lot bigger. I needed to do something about that. So I went to a junk drawer to look for a stapler. But before I could use it, the bottom of the bag totally gave up. Clack, 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 click, click. I stapled the bag shut and recovered as many chips as I could off the floor. But I kind of couldn't help myself, and a lot of them never made it into the bag. Chomp, gobble. Now there's no way Mom was going to notice. I was already in enough trouble, and I really didn't need to add to my problem. So I called Wally for help. I told him my situation and how I needed him to bring me as many chocolate chips as he could. Wally showed up at the front door 5 minutes later. He was all out of it. He said he would have gone to my house sooner, but the geese were out on the street and he had to cut to the neighbor's backyard to clear all of them. Pamp, pamp. I asked Wally for the chocolate chips and he opened his hands, but they were useless because they are completely melted. I told Wally he was going to have to go to the back and get more, but he said that was all they had. He said maybe he could call up Scotty Douglas down the street to see if he had any chocolate chips, and that sounded like a pretty good plan to me. But when Lolly picked up the phone, I noticed he was leaving chocolatey fingerprints everywhere. I knew that from one of Riley's fingerprints in the kitchen, I was dead. So we got some paper towels and started wiping down the whole kitchen. Wipe, squat. When we ran out of paper towels, I went into the laundry room to get some more. But when I did, I made a huge discovery. There were all unopened bags. There were 5 unopened. I found Mom's entire stash of leftovers or Halloween candy tucked behind the rolls of paper towel. There were 5 unopened bags in them, and it was all stuff I liked. I figured I'd give Rowley a few packets of gummy worms for helping me out with the cleanup. But I couldn't resist taking the opportunity to play a little prank on him first. Hey, is there something in my nose? Scream. I thought Riley would laugh, but he was terrified. Even after I showed him the worm was just a piece of candy, he still couldn't get over it. Slurp, shudder. A light bulb went on over my head. People love to be scared, and if you're good at it, you can make a fortune. It can't be that hard either. I am spooky as filthy rich, and that guy doesn't even exist. I heard about these college kids who make horror movies, and they only spent a couple $100 filming it. Then they sold the movie to a big studio. Now those guys are millionaires. Flash, 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 flash. If those guys could do it, so could I. And didn't need hundreds of dollars either. All I needed was a couple of bags of gummy worms and Mom and Dad's old camcorder. I could always see the movie's poster in my mind. Night of the Night Crawlers. And when my movie wins Best Picture, it'll be sure to thank all the little people who helped me along the way. But the person who deserves the biggest thanks is Mom. She's the one who's always saying I should use my imagination and do something creative. So when I'm a famous director, I bet she'll be proud. Before all that could happen though, we needed to get started making this movie. I told Rowley my idea to make a film where man eating worms terrorized a town. But that seemed to make him nervous. He said maybe we should switch out the worms for something less scary, like butterflies. That tickles. But I told him nobody was going to pay good money to see a movie like that. And I said we could have some funny parts so it wasn't just scary. And he seemed to warm up to the idea. Rowley wanted to get started filming right then and there. I told him we weren't doing anything without script, so we went upstairs, turned on my computer, and got to work. Night of the Night Crawlers, written by Greg Heffley, based on a concept by Greg Heffley. Rowley said he wanted to write too, but I really didn't want to share credit on this thing, since it was my idea. So I told him he could do the storyboards, which are little drawings that show how each camera shot is supposed to look. I figured a good way to start the movie should be a show a married couple having an ordinary day before the worms started attacking. Evening, a man comes home from work in a good mood, whistling a cheery tune. He opens the side door and steps inside the kitchen. But I ran into a problem right away. I was planning on directing, and Rowley was our only actor, that meant we couldn't really show 2 characters on the screen at the same time. The other problem was that I didn't want it to be too obvious that Rowley was playing all the parts, or people might think our film was low budget. So I had to get a little creative. Husband, hi dear, I'm home from work. Wife, hello honey, I hope you don't mind if I don't turn around, but I am really concentrating on doing these dishes. Husband, that's okay, I am going to go upstairs and take a shower. Wife, good, I can smell you from here. If I felt like there was already a little too much talking, so it was time to get into the action. Upstairs bathroom, the man steps inside the shower and turns the water on. Husband, oh man, the shower is gonna feel great, and my wife is right about me stinking. But then the worms shoot out of the shower head. Husband, what the heck? This isn't water, it's worms. But these are no ordinary worms. They are man-eating night crawls. Husband, oh great. These things are actually eating me. Worms come out of the man's eye and nose. When Molly finished that last drawing, he was right to the ghost. But I reminded him the worms were just candy, and that calmed him down. Timber. Back to the kitchen, the man runs into the room with a towel around his face. Husband, honey, don't use the water. But it's too late. The woman is scouting. Now I really started to lose Wally. I had to remind them this was all a make-believe, and we had a plastic skeleton that we were going to use for the scene. But he was practically hyperventilating. Wheeze, wheeze, fam, fam. I realized maybe this was a good place to add some comedy. So I put in a line of dialogue, and that brought Wally right back. Husband, why does this mean a single winks? Wink. After that was taken care of, it was back to the action. And the next scene was a big one. The man looks outside the house is totally surrounded by night crawlers. Husband, oh no, I'm surrounded. Better call the cops. The man puts the phone into his ear and dials 911. Husband, hello, this is the police. I am calling to report. Wait, what the worm crawls from the phone into the man's ear and out the other one. Husband, hi, dies. Splock. After I finished writing that scene, I realized this was taking too much time. Plus, there was some scenes I hadn't figured out how to shoot yet. Like the battle between the mayor and the 500-foot king Nightcrawler at the end of the movie. Since we weren't gonna get this whole thing done one day, I decided we might as well get started and shoot the scenes we just wrote. I found my parents' camcorder in Mom's closet, and luckily there was a film cartridge in the camera bag. We also bought some clothes from Dad's closet for Wally's first costume, and even though the pants were a little long, they more or less fit. We shot the opening scene, which took about 3 times longer than it should have been, because Wally had trouble remembering his lines. Hi dear, I'm home for breakfast. I mean, to take a shower. Have you seen any worms? Dang it. After that, it's time to film Wally as the guy's wife. Wally was a comfortable wearing one of Mom's dresses, so we settled on some yoga pants. We didn't have wigs, so Wally wore a hoodie to cover his head. It wasn't exactly like I had imagined it, but sometimes you have to just keep things moving. Scrub, scrub. After we wrapped things up in the kitchen, we went upstairs to film the bathroom scenes. Wally didn't want to get his hair wet, so he wore a shower cap we found underneath Mom's sink. I found Dad's bathing suit in one of his drawers, and Wally put that on and got in the shower. It turns out this shower scene was a lot harder to film than I expected. I had to shoot Wally from the waist up so you could see that he was wearing a bathing suit. Plus, I hadn't really thought through how to make it look like. Worms were coming out of the shower head, and nothing I did looked right. Eventually, I settled on just throwing worms at Wally's face. Hopefully, it'll look realistic when it's all edited together. Splat, toss. I couldn't find where Mom kept her food coloring, so we had to sell for some ketchup for the blood. It was a little too thick, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world either. Squirt. After we wrapped things up in the bathroom, it was time to go back down into the kitchen. We shot the skeleton scene pretty quickly, and the hoodie added some extra to it. At this point, it was getting a little late, and I was worried we weren't going to finish shooting our scene before my parents got home. We hurried outside and got to work spraying the gummy worms around the yard. Toss, sprinkle, but I wasn't satisfied with how the scene was coming. There just weren't enough worms to make it look scary. I decided we were going to have to dip into the other bag of gummy worms, but to make the scene work. But when I opened the door to the laundry room, I got a nasty surprise. Juice, slow. I was trying to figure out what to do with the pig when I heard Wally screaming in the kitchen, so I ran out to see what was wrong. Pant, pant. A bunch of geese were going to town on a gummy worm, so I opened the door to try to scare them off, but they wouldn't budge. Honk! Once these geese finished off the gummy worm, they want more. I closed the door and me and Wally hid under the kitchen table to try to figure out our next move. Wrap, wrap. I told Wally the only thing geese are scared of are other animals. But before I could say another word, Wally was out the window with Manny, see and talk. Po, 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 dog, 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 dog. Now the geese were pecking at the windows, and I was scared that if we did do something, they might actually break it. That's when I remembered that the last time Roderick went trick-or-treating, he wore his awful wolf mask, which was still down in the basement. I figured if anything was going to scare these geese off, it was that. Me and Wally ran down the furnace roof to find the mask. The old Halloween costumes were in a box on the fourth shelf, so it was a two-man job to get it down. I got up on Wally's shoulder and reached for the box. But when I did, I knocked the snow globe off the shelf. And when that happened, the witch went off. Quackle, 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 smash. I grabbed onto the shelf and the whole storage unit came crashing down. When the dust settled, we were both lucky to be alive. Once Wally got free, he shot out of the basement so fast. I think he might actually taken the stairs 4 at a time. And once he got out of the house, Wally didn't stop. He climbed halfway up the big tree on the side of the house. And that's where I found him, babbling nonsense. I tried to talk him into coming down, but he wouldn't budge. So I got a tennis racket and some balls and tried to knock him down, but that only made him climb higher. Unfortunately for me, that's the moment Dad came home. Honk! Wednesday. It's been pretty crazy couple of weeks since me and Wally made a movie. I've been too busy to keep up with my journal because Dad has had me working in the furnace room every night, sorting through all the stuff that fell off the shelves. I tried explaining to Dad that we would just make it a movie and things got out of hand, but it was like talking to a wall. I thought Mom would be a little more understanding, but it turns out the tape in the camera was of many talking, his first steps. And we recorded right over it. Splat. So I'm stuck cleaning up this mess in the furnace room. Meanwhile, Wally is drinking in his newfound fame. A news crew came out and recorded the moment when the fire department got him down out of a tree. And that footage of the dramatic rescue spread like crazy. Wally hasn't even been back to school because every morning talk show wants a piece of him. What's really annoying is that in all these interviews, Wally hasn't mentioned my name once, even though I'm the only one who made him famous. But these days, he pretty much acts like the world revolves around him. I guess that's what fame does to a person. All I can say is you will never see me making a fool out of myself just to get a cheap laugh from the people watching at home. Dog. The end. I hope you enjoyed Diary of a Wimpy Kid Double Down. Bye.